Well, everybody. Come crawling back to Monday, eh? Well, don't worry. We've got something to cheer you up. It's in the form of a podcast about football. It's called the Football Ramble, Jim. We're going to talk mainly about Premier League action, and my goodness, have we got some Premier League action to talk to you about. Vish, how are you?
Good. Am I one of the people who's going to be cheered up?
Yeah.
Can I, please?
We'll find a way. I think...
Nature finds a way.
I think the last thing we're going to talk about on this podcast is going to cheer everybody up.
Right, okay.
Big news.
Is it Phil Neville? I'm going to go spare if
Nothing
it is.
to do with... by the time we get there, I promise you, we will have taken out Phil Neville and put in something else. No, it's nothing to do with Phil Neville.
Is it the Concord Cup? Or...
the Cascadia Cup, which he won. Okay, you can't take that away from him. Okay, now... Let's go to the Arsenal, Jim. Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. Liverpool still unbeaten away from home in the Premier League this season because Arsenal failed to beat them. How do you see this game? I feel that Arsenal are a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
And Liverpool, there's a feeling of Arsenal weren't at full strength. Obviously the injuries, but ultimately of the two, Liverpool will be happy, I would have thought.
I think so. Yeah, it was because it was a really interesting battle, wasn't it? And you're always going to be disappointed if you've had the lead and you've let it slip, especially twice. I think that's a sort of the reasonable way to look at it.
And they did the sensible thing by only being 2-1 up rather than 2-0.
Well, exactly. Yeah, they've done everything right there. I looked at the way Liverpool approached this game. Liverpool know that, Arsenal have had a good couple of seasons past 2 years and they're trying to win the league this year. And it's like they don't even care. It's really annoying from where I'm sat.
After you hosted them so well.
I know, right? What are we doing?
I know.
Yeah, it was a very, very impressive away performance from Liverpool, actually, sort of in the context of the season they're having, because, they've had a flying start.
Why do you think it was impressive? I mean, Roy Keane, we know he likes to be critical. Especially of whom he doesn't like, we assume. But some people were saying, well, they didn't take that. Arsenal were perhaps there for the taking more.
Yeah, well,
as much as Arsenal can be there for the taking.
Well, I'm not sure that they were. I think essentially Liverpool took as much as they were able to because in the second half, obviously they had a lot more of the ball, but the chances they were making weren't exactly sort of massively clear cut. And in a split second, they've got an opportunity to carve one out, and they do it brilliantly. That second goal was fantastic. So I thought they handled the kind of the context of the game very, very well. I thought Arsenal were very good as well, obviously. Was impressed by how quickly they flew out the blocks and how quickly Bukayo Saka influenced the game. That was very, very encouraging because, after the result last week, the performance against Shakhtar, and particularly in the second half, for Arsenal wasn't particularly impressive. People were a little bit nervous going into this game, thinking, this might be difficult. And I don't think it was as difficult as was expected. Obviously, you'd hoped to win the game. Drawing it isn't a disaster. You find yourself 5 points behind City already, so you worry about that. But it could have been 7 behind Liverpool. So you got to look at the positives there. And I think it was just a really interesting clash between two very good teams who spent a fair bit of time feeling each other out. And yeah, it is disappointing to not take the win, but ultimately I've felt more frustrated at the Emirates many, many times. Gabriel and Timber going off is potentially disastrous, obviously, but that seems to be the rub of the green that Arsenal are getting in terms of injuries at the moment.
What did you think about the game, Vish? I mean, Slot said after the game, to get a point is pleasing to see. We had to play an away game and we had 1 day less to recover and prepare. Already getting that kind of chat, learning from his predecessor. But I mean, Jim's, it's his right as a British citizen to put a positive spin on things.
Sly dig.
Yes. Who?
Jim.
Right. I'll be a bit more direct.
Yeah, sorry, that was directed at you. Go on, ramp it up.
Okay, fine. So that tosser Jim reckons it's not a bad... No, some people would think, though, that from Liverpool's point of view, again, Arsenal's backline was rejigged due to injuries. Obviously, Gabriel and Timber go off.
The back four at the end, sorry to cut in there, is Thomas Partey, Ben White, Jakub Kiwior and Miles Lewis-Skelly.
Yes.
Which is,
Yeah, it is.
Mad.
It's
that drawing,
yeah, go on.
You know that drawing of the horse where it's like perfect for half and then it's like scribbles at the end?
Yeah.
That's what that back line reads like.
Yeah, because Ben White...
I swear there was a steward in there at one point.
but Ben White obviously is a centre-half who's converted as full-back, so it's not shocking. And look, Arsenal's still a good side. They're well drilled with Odegaard out as well. Do you feel that this game should have had a winner, maybe?
Yeah, it's weird because I don't necessarily disagree with anything Jim said, but it's hard not to view that game with Man City, kind of watching it from above, going
Because they're the ultimate winners, exactly.
good.
I had a therapy session this morning. Maybe that's why I'm so sanguine about it.
But I thought Liverpool won as good as they could have been. This is probably their first real test. They
How
came
many
through
tests?
against Chelsea.
Obviously, the Chelsea was meant to be the first test.
Well, but it was a step up. Well, really, Manchester United should have been a test, but it wasn't. So very much, the meme of the steward patting people down and letting them through. That was Manchester United's test.
How did they get past him?
Yeah, but I suppose this is a test in the sense of these are the three. Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal are the three teams that are going to go through.
This is clearly the toughest game they've played.
Yeah, and if you take it as read that you're going to ultimately the aim is to try and accumulate the same number of points against everyone else, the other the other 17 teams, and then work out how to beat the other two or take points of the other two. I didn't think Liverpool were that good. And I did think Arsenal let them into it, particularly after that second goal. I know there was a lot of talk about Arsenal retreating. I don't think they retreated. I think they just botched a couple of breaks. I mentioned this to Jim
I agree with that.
Outside before we started recording, but there was a couple of times that Martinelli just... It could have been, I suppose, a little bit more direct, a little bit more decisive. He loses the ball on the edge of the Liverpool box that leads to the equaliser. Obviously, there's still a lot to be done there. There's Trent's balls over the top, which is brilliant. There's Salah's movement off Darwin's pass, which, to be fair, I thought he was going to flunk, but he played it perfectly.
Salah's movement to get into that position and essentially make it so easy was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a lovely goal.
But I think Kivior and Lewis Skelly are sort of in the same position at that same time. Something's gone awry there and have taken advantage brilliantly.
I was really, really impressed by Saka to play like that after 3 weeks out. I know there was a lot of kidology in midweek, understandably so, because you've got to be cautious with bringing anyone back. But I thought he was... I mean, he basically just hit the ground running.
Yeah, lovely goal.
Exceptional. Really nice. And also, and similarly, while we're talking about it, because of what Noni Madueke did to him last week, what's happening with Andy Robertson at the moment?
It felt like that was a deliberate ploy.
Yeah.
And Robertson was struggling at times.
Isolate him and then do him as he was done last week. It might just be bad form, but it was. I've never seen him look more subdued. He's usually like in a winger's face, really kind of up, almost touch tight. And I don't know if it's because there's a change of system. He's being asked to do something differently, so he can't necessarily commit as high. But yeah, that was a bit strange.
I mean, it could be simple. I don't know. He could be a bit knackered, and coming up against Madueke and Saka is not what you
exactly.
want. But you're right, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he was skinned, for that Saka goal.
But broadly, I suppose just to go back and answer your question, I kind of think Arsenal have more to rue coming out of this game.
I agree with you.
And I think it's also due to the fact that they are as far behind behind Man City at this current point than before.
Something you touched on there. There's a bit of chat now with Arteta, obviously, was under Guardiola's wing at Man City, and people thinking, okay, how is he going to try and emulate that? And then there's been talk about this season Arsenal being maybe a little bit more Mourinho-like. Some of the chat today and straight after the game is they seem to be going, obviously it's not one or the other, you can be your own person, you can Tony Blair it and go in the middle, Jim, but some people say, Arsenal now, they're going a bit more Mourinho than say Guardiola, and Slot certainly was suggesting, he said there were so many times that they were on the floor, I don't blame them for that. Then goes on to say, but it always happened after they had ball possession. That took the energy out of the game, in my opinion. So I said to Ibrahima Konate, this is a fucking joke. And the fourth official thought I said to him, you were a fucking joke. But that's definitely not what I said. But I got a yellow for that, and now I'm on 2, and I have to be very careful. So, yes, got his booking for naughty language. But with regards to Arsenal, and he even Slot himself mentioned the dark arts and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Are you enjoying it, Jim, as an Arsenal fan? Or do you think, come on, lads, let's be a bit more front-footed if we go ahead?
That wasn't my takeaway from having watched the game, because I went to the game. I didn't feel like that was actually happening maybe as much as Slot pointed out.
You're used to it now.
But genuinely, it might be that
your brain has been
It might be that that my Arsenal hat is so tight.
Your hand,
I can't
your
think clearly.
Brain and heart are holding hands so tightly that actually not much blood is being pumped around one or the other.
And while they're holding hands, they're using their spare hand to cover your eyes.
The question of am I enjoying it is an interesting one, though, because there have been a lot of games that have just been like endurance tests. So obviously the 3 games with red cards in them are a little bit different, but there have been quite a few performances like, oh God, this is a bit of a slog.
Does feed into the point.
Perhaps, absolutely. I think it's important to have lots of different ways to play, right? And Arteta's always always been about that. In every element of Arsenal's play, he wants to have lots of different options and lots of different modes of play for different challenges in different games. And I think this is just a part of that. And also, you know, the team is kind of makeshift in a lot of different ways. And you know, there's players who've been in and out quite a lot, picking up little injuries and then, you know, coming back and then getting another one, etc., as we've seen a few times with a few players. So I think part of it is possibly to do with that. And I remember the beginning of last season feeling a little bit like this as well. It was like, this new set of players hasn't quite clicked and gelled properly yet. And I think it's just more of the same, really. And I do agree with what you said about Arsenal botching a couple of breakaways and a couple of chances. And I think there's a weird inherent contradiction within this team, which is that they scored a lot of goals last season, the season before. I think it was the most goals I've ever scored in the Premier League last season. There's still a sense that they kind of lack a ruthlessness.
Yeah.
And I think bringing that out and fixing that problem is absolutely essential.
Well, it could be your obvious goal scorer. If you think Man City have got Haaland, of course.
Maybe.
Liverpool, Salah, right? They've got other goal scorers in there, but Salah's your man, really. And Chelsea now, you've got to say Jackson or Palmer. You know, you think about some other teams there. Villa have got Watkins, you know. Kai Havertz has chipped in. He scored a few goals. I'm not certain.
This is it. Everyone chips in, don't they? That's
yeah, and it's good. You know, it's always a good thing. And those other aforementioned sides have got goals everywhere, right? We should say that. But maybe, do you think people still not sure about that forward position for Arsenal?
Possibly in terms of... in
the big moments, you need something.
Kind of
who's your man?
To get 25 a season.
Yeah.
But they're not sort of... That isn't there, is it?
Well, Mikel Merino's only 24 off 25 now in the league this season. He got his first goal. What did you make of his performance?
It was sort of... You know, obviously there's a small sample size of Mikel Merino in an Arsenal shirt so far. There's been a little bit of...
but against Liverpool,
discontent. I thought he was good. He was solid, actually. And him and Rice were a very, very effective screen, particularly when Liverpool had more of the ball and were a bit more dominant. He took his goal well, I thought.
Yes.
He strikes me as being a bit of a nerd, which I like.
Why is that?
He's just got nerdy energy, and I don't mean that as a negative. I like it in footballers. Declan Rice is a bit of a nerd. Timo Werner a bit of a nerd. Right. They just kind of sweet little nerdy guys who happen to be massive.
You know what?
Who happen to be incredibly tough competitors.
I think
professional athletes.
On that, I think Darwin Núñez is a bit of a nerd. Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I think he's one of those, you know, like how everyone goes a bit
Could
giddy.
and would a nerd fight and a challenge and fight a bear if the opportunity presented itself? Because Darwin Núñez would.
Yeah, I reckon he would.
I think Darwin Núñez would trick the bear.
Yeah. You know the way everyone goes a bit gaga because Henry Cavill loves Warhammer?
Yeah.
Oh, does he?
Exactly
I can imagine Darwin
Núñez
Núñez is like, you know, properly into, I don't know, manga or something like that.
Okay.
I thought his performance yesterday was really interesting because we obviously talk about like everything he does in the final third, but he kept chasing Arsenal players, you know, and I want to say like he was like really sound defensive work, but I felt like he did it whenever he was like, oh, I don't like him.
Yeah.
Because every now and again he'd be like the deepest Liverpool player because he was like, right, I'm just going to get the ball now.
Yeah.
It's like he got a bit bored, but then
Rooney used to be like that in his younger days at Man United.
But he then like scratched his itch by doing it in quite a productive way.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really hard working performance from him generally.
Yes. So Liverpool now, they're second, of course, 1 point behind Man City off the top. Slot has kind of maybe cooled a little bit of title talk, and as you would expect. Well, we're 9 games in now. Best goal difference in the league, as I say, 1 point off Manchester City. They've come through the latest of the tests. They are a title contender.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like they are, sure.
I mean, if you look at last season, they sort of fell away towards the end, but you know they were in the race for a long time. He's inherited a very good team, put his own spin on it very quickly, not changed too much, etc. We've been over all that before, but the energy he's brought and the freshness and the feeling of positive momentum has been an absolute sort of. It's a masterclass in how to inherit a team like that, really, from Slot so far. And yeah, I don't think it's controversial to say they're a title contender at all.
No. They seem a bit calmer, don't they? I thought yesterday. I was almost waiting for them to panic, almost like people start taking pot shots. And there was one, and I think Alexander-Arnold had one, which he dragged really far. Which you're kind of like, yeah, fair enough.
Of all the people.
It's Alexander-Arnold, yeah. But they broadly seemed quite calm. I thought his changes were quite good. You know, Szoboszlai came on and was very energetic, and it felt like that's exactly what they needed at that point, especially when they were starting to get more of the ball.
They've got legs in midfield.
Yeah. I thought on that side it was quite good. And obviously quite a good indication. As you said, we are, you know, already 9 games in, but quite a good indication that he's very aware of the skill and talent of his squad and what is needed in various moments of games, which is ideal, in at the end of October. The only thing I'm a bit wary of is that they might just end up being pace setters, as with Arsenal. They might just end up being pace setters for Manchester City. They'll almost be like, right, you need to be here at this point, and be like, fine, or you need to be 1 point more than where we are in March, and like, fine, we'll do that. We'll try and be 2 points clearer.
I feel Man City are lulling people into a false sense of security in that they they beat Southampton 1-0 at home, which was a surprise, right? You'd have that down as 3-4-5.
Yeah.
It also could have been 3-4-5. But...
Yeah, more of a cricket score, of course, 3-4-5.
They've not lost the game yet, have they?
They've not lost the game. And there's against Fulham, for example, they conceded 2 goals and chances, and maybe another day would have been different, etc., etc. But you just imagine around January, it's like, right, lads, 5th gear.
This is it. They're not even good yet, by their own standards.
Yes.
And something's going to happen, like Rodri will somehow be back by March.
Bionic legs.
Yeah.
Indeed. Before we go to a break, I just want to say that Bukayo Saka became the youngest Arsenal player to score 50 Premier League goals, beating Thierry Henry's record with that beauty.
It's magnificent.
It really is. It really is. Although Henry did have a slowish start at Arsenal, didn't he? But quickly picked up the pace. All right, coming up after the break, we're going to ask Vish how he feels after another Manchester United
We could do
loss.
it before the break. Shit.
But that's one of the reasons why Steven Gerrard is such a legend at the club and seen as the greatest ever player to play for the club, because he stayed here for his whole career.
So loyalty, you think has to come into it, right? Obviously, you want loyalty. Get yourself a dog.
Well, back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Very enjoyable from Roy Keane there. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Tom, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. And a reminder that if you want to get in touch with your stories, questions for the mailbag, or in response to anything at all, then email us show@footballramble.com. That's show@footballramble.com. Right then, time to feel shit a bit more, Vish. West Ham United 2, Manchester United 1. A late controversial penalty won West Ham the match. Jim, was it a penalty?
I was going to ask Vish the same thing.
No, I want your opinion before. Let him squirm a bit.
You and I, Marcus,
Yes.
without our blinkers on, can see that was clearly an egregious disregard for the rules by De Ligt. And of course, I think that's 2 penalties, actually.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous. Of course it's not a penalty.
Jim, you know what I think?
Ridiculous.
I don't care. It's absurd.
Like, they've got every right to be absolutely fuming about that. They should have been, out of sight by then anyway. But that doesn't matter, does it?
It was a clear and obvious error from the referee to not award that penalty.
From which of the referees? The one watching it on his little screen?
The one texting. So I'm guessing you didn't think it was a penalty either, Vish, because Matthias De Ligt certainly didn't think so.
No, I mean, I didn't. But there was a moment where, as soon as it came up, I was like, "Oh, they're just gonna get it."
You knew.
Give it to them.
It was so inevitable.
Yeah,
it was the most obvious thing in the world. He was going to overturn that.
Even the it was because of that, there was 12 minutes of added time, but because of which was already put in when they were looking at the penalty itself, but it only gets scored in the 92nd minute, so it ends up going to 14.
That's right.
And I was like, well, there's still a lot of time to go, but all that 2 minutes did was allow Bruno Fernandes to boot the ball out of the stadium. It was pretty much the last act of the game.
It's a hell of an achievement, considering how far
this is what I'm saying. Yeah.
From the pitch. There are a couple of angles from the replays which I can sort of think, okay, I see how the referees thought it was a foul there, but the fact is...
Yeah, it's like a magic eye penalty when you get to that sort of thing, though, isn't it?
Indeed, Jim, indeed. And that suggests, again, that people get a bit annoyed that if it's clear
people
and obvious...
are looking for it, surely, in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's many, but I'm sure there'll be some people who maybe think it was a penalty, but certainly the consensus was that it wasn't, but it did win them the game. But you're right to say that Manchester United should have been far and away. I mean, they should have tied the game up at half time, for crying out
That
loud.
Diego Dallo miss. He's done so well to get himself into that position.
I know.
It was a weekend for the sort of long, raking Route 1 ball, wasn't it?
Was a bit, yeah.
Saka and Salah's goals were both the result of that. Cole Palmer played an amazing ball in the Chelsea Newcastle game. We've got one here, and Dallo does that.
Eric Ten Hag said after the game, we were far better than the opponent. Went on to say, in football, the best team does not always win. That was clear and obvious, unlike that decision. But the only way VAR worked was not clear and obvious. He also said that Manchester United not scoring let them down. So he's got his finger on the pulse. Of course, only Southampton and Palace have scored fewer this season in the league than Manchester United, and they have the biggest negative differential between expected goals and goals scored in the Premier League, if people are interested in that. 8 goals from 14.6 expected goals. The chances in the first half, I suppose, like if you really want to, squeeze some, Arteta lemon juice out of this, you would
Into your eyes.
you would say at least they're creating the chances. But if you're not going to take them, I mean, it's...
after
they
that,
must be thinking, how on earth are we not?
At half time, genuinely, I thought that West Ham were going to sack Lopetegui.
Yes.
Because they were that bad.
Shockingly
They
bad.
were awful.
But you know what it's like in the Prem? You get, if you don't take your chance, when you are, let's be fair, a sort of a mid-table type side, and you're on top, and you've got your chances. It happened when I saw Fulham play West Ham. Obviously, West Ham scored very, very late. I remember thinking, one should be enough for Fulham here. And it should have been. They switched off. But there was a few chances where he thought, well, you need that extra goal.
That insurance
or et cetera, et cetera.
Or you need to score full stop.
Yes, this is absolute basics. Nobody needs this explaining, of course. But to not even be ahead... psychologically what that does to you, but miss after miss after miss, then to go 1-down. I mean, Casemiro was the man who got them back into it, for crying out loud. But
Did you see the goal?
I did.
3 headers. It was proper. It was a proper mid-table equaliser.
Yeah.
It's a lovely
Back
note.
post, headed back into the mixer, headed towards goal, headed into goal.
That's not even classic Prem. I think that's old
No.
Division 1.
That's what £1 billion gets you.
It's lower mid-table now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lower mid-table these days.
Oh, Jim.
The only thing that was missing was it coming from a long throw.
Yeah, true.
But the interesting thing I thought was Manchester United are going to West Ham, who are absolutely not in a good place at the moment.
Yes.
And simply do not have the wares to make the most of it, to get, to even, obviously they should have scored twice. It could have been 4 at half time. But you come out at the break and you think, look, they've just put in that 45 minutes, West Ham have.
Yeah.
This should be easy. The fans are already, they're right there to turn on their own team.
Yeah.
Make the most of that. And to be fair to Lopetegui, he made a couple of good changes. Obviously, Crescencio Somerville came on and he just is an excellent player. Gets a good goal, but beyond that, did a lot of good things. Obviously, former Leeds player, sticking the boot into Manchester United and all that. And Souček comes in and just solidifies it. Well, gives him a bit of midfield presence. But it was. Yeah, it's just so.
But to go back to my earlier point, is that when you have that half that Manchester United had, when they are so dominant,
or you build on that, don't you?
Yeah. Surely even Lopetegui, because I go back to that game I saw when they played against Fulham, which. He didn't change that much because he only 1-0 down. What do you do? When it's like that, when you think, bloody hellfire, we should be 2, 3, 4 down. Yeah. You think, right, I have to change stuff. And he did, and they're never going to be that bad in the second half. Yeah. And even if they just go massively defensive or whatever. And I think that it was almost like a lot of the chances had gone. But still, Manchester United need to kind of go, right, same again, lads. Let's not let them off the hook.
Yeah, but it's all, so like even going back to the conversation that I said that should have happened at half time. Basically, one team said to themselves, come on, look at the state of them. Yeah. And it was West Ham at half time.
Yeah. Lads,
we
Man United.
We know what they're like. Yeah. As well, yeah.
Right, they've had their lot. Yeah. And off they go. I mean,
after that, just very quickly, this stat came up on Twitter the other day. Sorry, X. After that defeat, Manchester United now have a goal difference of +2 over their last 55 Premier League games across exactly 18 months.
Wow.
Which speaks to how ineffectual they've been in front of goal. And
is it 1 win in 8 as well in all competitions, something like that? Yeah. I mean, from the West Ham point of view, it's potentially galvanising though as a win. Obviously, they've kind of it's a bit of a kind of smash and grab, but it is something to build on. It's 2 home wins in a row.
Well, I think, I mean, what Vish said about being at half time, I mean, people would have been calling for Lopetegui's head. This win, it's the result that buys him a bit more time.
Yeah.
Even though he's not the favourite to be sacked, and
that's still Nuno, isn't it?
Yeah. All 3 of us are hoping.
Absolute fraud. You'll see.
No, but with Lopetegui, he's been under pressure, and as you say, Jim, they've won the last couple of games. But it is the result, because let's be honest, how they were knocked down at half time is beyond me, because they were so piss poor. They've been so easy to get at times this season, which is not something that we've expected them under old David Moyes, him who shall not be mentioned. So he's got a bit of good fortune now. Can they build on it? We'll see. But it is a big win. So that, yes, they move above Manchester United on goal difference, or on goals scored, actually. That's
unfair.
Yeah, both are, of course, just 7 points above the relegation zone.
Do you remember when I was jokingly boasting about United being top of the
Too good to go down?
half? Top of the second half of the table.
Yeah.
They played 1 game since then and dropped to 14th.
Wow.
I forgot how quickly things moved down there.
The thing is, I mean, I know we keep talking about Ten Hag, and this is the same chat with Manchester United. It seems like a pointless thing to ask, but until they change the manager, do you see it getting any different? Because I don't, and I don't think many people do.
No, not really, no. I mean, it's as simple as that.
But do you not think, from a fan point of view, it's frustrating?
Yeah, well, yeah. Sorry, do I sound too excited?
I just think you should be banging your fists a bit more. You should be.
Yeah, there's a bloke on the internet who does that. Does that for
a fair few blokes on the internet do that. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
One of the really sad things about it, I suppose, is that it can get quite a lot better and still count as bad. You know what I mean? Like, even a run of 3 wins on the bounce now, it's like, it's only going to take them so far up. And it comes back to what you say about, surely they have to change the manager.
But it's the same conversation every week now. Yeah. And it feels like already that this is a bit of a write-off season for Manchester United, which is crazy to think about.
But even then, I don't think they can think of it like that anymore. I would say the previous seasons have been write-off seasons in terms of getting rid of the manager and trying to essentially reclaim a Champions League spot.
Yeah.
But I think they have to have some honest conversations about themselves with the squad and with the general operation of the club. That you're not a top 4 club anymore.
No.
You're probably not even a top 6 club anymore. And if you think of this as a write-off season, then you will totally. You won't start the necessary rebuilding, will you? You'll just try and cover it off until the end of the summer, and then think, right, where's Zidane? Where's Xavi? Where's a big name manager that we can get in to propel us to the top? And you look at the squad, and it's at your 2
better than this.
Yeah, it's much better than this. But generally, right now, at your 2 respective clubs, you probably take 2, maybe 3 of that squad. And certainly I cannot think off the top of my head someone who's going to start from Arsenal. I can maybe think of 1 or 2 who might start for Fulham, but those will be the 2 you take. You wouldn't want any of the squad players, I don't think. And that's the realistic nature of where things are. So, obviously I'm very annoyed, but I kind of made my peace with this about a year ago, because there's only so many managers you can go through before the rest of the squad starts dipping, and then your league form becomes reflective of where you truly are. And obviously I don't think United are the 14th best team, or only the 14th best team in this league. But I also don't think they're the 6th best team in this league. So they are, as Luke's always said recently, they're a mid-table team. But I have thought that for a while.
Yeah.
So I mean, so what I'm saying is they can't write it off. They need to change the manager, but they need to start building up from now, not from next summer.
Yeah. And I suppose Man United fans, some of them, as you say, have accepted this. Things can't get more kind of embarrassing or ridiculous. Well, Manchester United did reportedly ask Manchester City if Kobbie Mainoo and Alexander-Arnold could get a lift on Man City's plane to the Ballon d'Or tonight in an attempt to save money.
I think
how the mighty have fallen.
I think you're coming at this from totally the wrong, like genuinely, because I think if you look at
Save the planet.
well, if you look at how Manchester United have operated in the last 5 years, and I appreciate neither of you would have seen this, but they have been more environmentally conscious,
Yep.
and I think they should be lauded for that. Especially when you consider that Ineos have made promises to use only 325,000 tonnes of recycled material by 2025, which is a promise that they've made themselves.
Yep.
I mean, admittedly, that's less than 1.5% of their chemical production in 2020 alone. But I think you're looking at this through the wrong lens.
Well, I read on actually because Manchester City had already chartered a plane to take their players to the ceremony and told Man United the plane was already full with their 8 nominees. So they are going to have to, if they want their men
That
there.
must have been the.
They are going to have to take a plane.
Imagine the shit-eating grin when you send that message.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're taking 8 of our nominees.
Yeah. Erling, do you want to tell him?
I tell you what, Garnacho can sit on Erling's lap if he wants.
I mean, the context of this is apparently that it is quite common for clubs from different teams to share long-haul flights for things like international breaks, but the ceremony is in Paris. So the context actually makes this much, much worse.
Yeah.
And apparently
They
it's all
set off
part of
after yesterday's game, didn't they? And in an electric car.
Apparently it's all part of the cost-cutting measures, isn't it? It's just like, how bad is this going to get?
Well, this is it.
Are they going to
this
shove the Alex Ferguson statue into the hole in the roof to plug it up?
I don't know, Jim. But it wouldn't surprise me. But the whole thing with the staff at the matches on the away days and stuff, they would get a packed lunch. It was basically a meal deal, right? Sandwich, packet of crisps, and a drink or something like that. Maybe an apple thrown in.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that anymore. But how many members of staff? Like, how much does that set?
250 members of staff they let go as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. We must move on because there's more, I suppose, inspiring things to talk about.
Because there'll be more things next week.
Yes, indeed. Brentford 4, Ipswich Town 3. Come on, 7-goal thriller. How about that? Sorry, Ipswich fans, but my goodness, it was a feast for the eyes. Brian Mbeumo scored a 96th minute winner, of course, for the Bees. Ipswich were 2-0 up. Did well to come back into it after the sending off. But Brentford are going to Brentford.
Absolutely. Now, long-term listeners of the show and fans of boring detail will know that sometimes I avoid the scores on a Saturday, which I did this Saturday.
Did you?
Put match of the day on, Brentford Ipswich up first, and going, yes!
Yeah, why is that
This is going to be mad.
Yeah.
And so it was.
Because they do us a good service now, match of the day, because they used to basically pick the big names, and this would be given 3 minutes at the end. Come on, you know. Whereas when you saw that, Jim, you must have thought, my goodness.
What on earth has gone on here?
Saturday night is back.
Even I wasn't prepared for how brilliant this was.
Yeah.
It was kind of, I feel for Harry Clark. So apparently he's only the second player in Premier League history to score an own goal, give away a penalty and get sent off. You do it on the main event on Saturday night. You've pissed yourself on Strictly. No one's really heard of you that much before. It's not great.
It isn't.
For your boyhood club as well.
Yeah.
He started out there as a kid.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, he's still a Premier League player. So,
He is.
You know,
What have I ever
he's
done?
very much living his dream.
Absolutely.
Not next week though, because he's suspended. The week after he will.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it was a proper old ding dong, and I mean Liam Delap scoring that
He's
goal.
such a good player.
He is a good player, and he hit the post as well. Late on too. Delap is a proper outlet for Ipswich, and he's a very important player. He's obviously scored a handful of goals already this season.
He's a galloper, doesn't he? He gallops.
He does have a gallop on him. He nearly scored that great goal. Was it away to Brighton when he hit the post? That was a proper. He was at full gallop then. So Ipswich, of course, are going to be mightily disappointed for obvious reasons. Losing with such a late goal,
And the nature of the goal as well.
Sure. But to try and be a little bit positive about them, I know that they've only got 4 points after 9 games, but again, a win can change things. We expect them to be in a relegation battle just because of the quality and the cut and thrust of the Premier League. But unlike maybe one or two other teams down there, in a player like Delap, they have a goal scorer and a guy who's an outlet. And you think about, say, Southampton at the moment. Despite a decent performance at Manchester City, they still lose the game and don't score. When you don't have that outlet, when you don't have somebody who you can look at and go, he's our man, it's so demoralising. But Ipswich do have that. Now, I know Delap came on in this game, so he didn't start, but still scores. And you think, yeah, there's something, because if you're a defender and your back's to the walls and so on, and you've just got nothing up top, it really is, it's a proper old walking up a sand dune kind of thing.
Again,
and they've scored 3 goals here. I know they've conceded 4, but I'm trying to be positive about them. So I think that there is a little bit more about them.
Definitely, as you say, that's just invaluable when you're down there because there's still a lot of games to play. And if they can essentially get used to the pace and the rhythm of the Premier League a bit more and keep him fit, that outlet is absolutely superb, isn't it? We've seen it so many times where essentially one player's goals can keep a team up, and he absolutely looks like he's got the potential to be that player for them. It's a bit of a Morgan Rogers situation, isn't it? Because it's like he is from that Man City academy context.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was just such a shame for them that Brentford, right before half-time, just give them the old 1-2 and they're there. But, I mean, great for Brentford. Wissa scored a lovely goal. It's good to see him back and among the goals. And Brentford have been very enjoyable this season. I know they
kind of are, aren't they? Like, you tune into their games and you're like, they're going to be quite interesting and really fun to watch.
Well, I mean, indeed.
A bit of a point of difference, really, when you consider that, Man City don't necessarily Man City in a different way, don't they? And Liverpool are a bit more back and forth. And it feels like Brentford have this, like, they build from the back and they're flawed when they do it, which makes them even more exciting to watch. But when they get it right, they can cut through teams at will.
Well, there's a chaos factor about Brentford, which is thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, 18 goals scored, 18 goals conceded. It's brilliant. I mean,
4 victories, 4 defeats.
Only the bottom 3 have conceded more than them.
Also, they had that run of games of scoring in like the first 2 minutes or so.
Yeah,
which is just like
it's phenomenal stuff. And only Chelsea and Man City have scored more than them.
Yeah,
that is the story. Again, it's going to be one or the other. And you can't take your eyes off them.
Did we feel old, the fact that George Hurst and Liam Delap scored 2 kids of players that we...
I know what you mean.
Yeah, Liam Delap more so.
Yeah, but they both have their father's first name as their middle name. Oh. So it's Liam Rory Delap and David Hurst, who's George Hurst's brother. David Hurst used to play for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yes, I remember.
He's George David Eric Hurst. Yeah.
But I feel that David Hurst, that was a bit of a while ago. I don't. Many people would remember David Hurst. I mean, I do. I remember
a 90s player, wasn't he?
Yeah, more of a 90s player. Whereas Delap, I think, is more so.
Yeah. But it's worse that we remember David Hurst.
True.
Because he's older.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
We're really old now, aren't we?
I know. I mean, they even brought on Cole Palmer's son off the bench, but
God, it's getting worse by the minute.
That didn't happen, in case anyone thinks I've gone mad. But yeah, Ipswich have lost 10 points from winning positions in the league this season. Of course, only Brentford have lost more. But so that is something that Ipswich have got to look at, of course, because
I think they'll be aware of that, mate.
I think that they think losing by a goal in the Prem is a point.
We've lost again, have we?
Yeah, but the fact is, you're going ahead. Yeah. So again, it shows a bit about them. I'm trying to be positive, Ipswich fans. I'm trying to be positive.
I don't know. I think what they're
doomed, aren't they? They're doomed.
Well, I think what they're going to have to rely upon is the fact that there are everyone else around them at this moment is a bit rubbish. Yeah. And if they can pick those teams off, they've got Leicester next, who aren't necessarily around them. They're 5 points ahead in 15th, but they basically have to kind of try and get what they can elsewhere, but beat everyone around them.
Yeah, but for them, though, when they see that Palace have won 1-0 and Mateta scored, they're like, oh, no, he's back. That's not what we need.
Yeah.
Not what we need.
It's not what Brassel needs either.
Yeah, when Everton bundle in they get a late equaliser against us. I guess not what we needed. So you're right, but when you look around, you think, oh, bollocks.
Yeah, they've been there for a while.
Everton are never getting relegated, ever.
No, it's true. It is true. Again, the Baron Samedi of the Premier League. All right. Coming up after this, Ian Holloway is back in management, and we've got that news that will lift your spirits. See you in a moment. Before we get to all that, come on. We've got to mention Brighton 2, Wolves 2, haven't we?
Yes.
We're not going to do Gag O'Neill's lot a disservice by not mentioning that comeback. Jim, the man who didn't know what was going on when you watched Match of the Day, you didn't see this coming, did you?
No, I was thrilled with that. Especially because Fabian Hurtzler's 6 foot.
Yes.
So it's like, Gary's picked up, he's got a bit of wind in his eyes. He's like, you know what, I am going to have a swing at the big lad.
A bigger lad.
Sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Wolves obviously scored in the 88th and the 93rd.
Brilliant.
To get that draw.
I'm a big fan of Ryan Ait-Nouri, so it was always good to see him pop up with a goal. But the Cunha at the end as well. Just obviously a bit of a worrying one for Brighton that. They should never have let that slip. And I think Wolves they've had a bit of a difficult run in terms of the fixtures they've had, which obviously everyone plays everyone twice, but there are times that are worse than others with those little runs of games, and they have a much nicer run now. So to get something positive now to go into that is important because you need that momentum so badly.
Yes. Well, again, talking about Ipswich Town and some of the other teams around them picking up the odd point, that they wouldn't have wanted to see Wolves do that. And you saw O'Neill and so on. It's kind of like finally something's gone for us. Finally that we've got another point on the board. But that breakaway from Brighton at the end.
I was falling out of my seat wanting to talk about that. What were they doing?
And the fact is, you have a line of players of five. No, what did he have? A line of four players.
Yeah.
Right. I forget who had the ball, and one of them is distinctly wearing different colours. You've passed it straight to him. It was such a bad. Oh man, He would have felt so sick.
The thing about it is, like, you can put yourself in that position and be like, there are so many options here.
Yeah.
Passing it to the defender is the last one.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Don't do that. Dink it to the far post.
Oh,
maybe even like break further forward so you have that. You confuse the guy in the middle even more. But
oh my goodness.
But also like Tommy Doyle.
Yeah.
That was incredible stuff.
Yes.
To get not only to get the interception, but to play such a good. I mean, this could fall into the tally of. Raked through balls or, classy through balls from deep that we've seen this weekend. Because he finds Cunha and Cunha takes it on and scores. But it was quite interesting, Cunha at the end of the game said, he turned to Tommy Doyle and was like, that's your goal. I'm keeping it, but that's your goal.
I was going to say, you don't get to decide.
The record books will not state it.
Yeah. But I've not only scored and got the equaliser, but I'm doing a nice thing now. So I'm up, really.
Do you remember when Thierry Henry took away a goal from Chicharito for Real Madrid in the Champions League, when Ronaldo basically jinxed past everybody and he squared it, like Chicharito I'm pretty sure it was Chicharito just towed it in or whatever, and Henry just went, that's Ronaldo's goal. It's like, you can't do that. It's very much like you can't give goals away. Like when Mourinho gave the ball boy an assist at Spurs. I love it.
McTominay the Player of the Year award.
Well, no, but that was genuine though. Yeah, those 5 appearances won him that. Oh my goodness, though. But yeah, they Brighton pig sick. Absolute pig sick. They should. You're away. They know. But Danny Welbeck did score again.
I was going to also mention this because on.
Are you watching Thomas Tuchel
on Match of the Day?
Come on.
I think it's something to say because like a lot of these commentators get stat packs. So if it was like a meaningful goal, if it was like a milestone goal or whatever.
Yeah.
But there have been so many goals already that they've obviously used all of their Danny Welbeck trivia, and so. He just had space to ask, there is an England squad coming up.
Oh, did he?
Do you think, as a form English striker?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be all over it. It flies in the face of everything they're trying to do.
It would be.
But I'm all in favour for it.
It would be very funny, wouldn't it? You can imagine how angry people would be if he actually does that.
Would they be angry?
Surely you can't be angry at that guy Welbs. Jim, who are these people that you seem to know?
Yeah.
Tabloid journalists.
Oh, right, okay. It's the company you keep, I suppose. It's the company you keep. Well, yes, it was a good point for Wolves. There's no doubt about that. I love how Gary Neville said he was disappointed in himself for starting the game with 5 at the back.
Is that a dig?
Well, kind of at himself, really, I suppose. Because he's thinking to himself, blimey.
We could have had these.
Exactly. We only needed 1 at the back. Yeah,
Would you?
I mean, it's like, okay, Gary, come on. They did get the better of you. They should have won the game. He's had such a shocking time to have such jubilation and such a wonderful celebration at the end. He's just gone, we should just do this. We ought to get them forward. Yeah, just bombard the box.
There was quite a sweet moment where in his post-match he was doing the maths in his head. He was like, well, I knew if we had an overload, because if they had 4 against R1, then we had 7.
Yeah, we had loads up. Yeah. We played that. We sucked
7.
them in.
No, they had 7. They had 7 against R9, so we were fine. Yeah.
That in the next game, Wolves put everybody up, but there's all these breakaways and one poor bugger at the back. So Gary,
Tommy, come on.
That's what we want to see. That's what we all want to see. Something that we did see on the weekend was Ian Holloway, who has returned to management, everybody. On Friday, he was announced as the new Swindon manager. First managerial job that he's had since leaving Grimsby in 2020. A great character of the Premier League.
He was sort of surreptitiously managing from the crowd as well.
Yeah, so very much we did see him return to nearly full management.
Yeah.
Oh, like Howard Webb?
No, he was only managing one side. Webb was managing the whole league.
Oh, yeah.
The whole game.
Also, you could tell because Webb had puppet strings, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He did. Definitely did.
He did.
Yeah. Holloway, though, he officially starts the job today. But as you said, Jim, he was very much in full work mode. The half work mode at Swindon. So he was sat in the stands, not far from the dugout, just a few rows back, and then suddenly he was getting closer and closer. And it felt, if you weren't sure who he was, if you'd have just maybe turned up and you hadn't heard the news, I'm sure they all would have done, you'd have thought, who's that bloke in the flat cap who's giving?
He had like a trilby on, didn't he?
Was it a trilby? I said, I just assumed flat cap.
He sort of looked like a pickup artist.
He did well, but he
Swindon Town have had Neil Strauss.
but he was. It looked like some bloke from the crowd had jumped forward and was giving the bench instructions, and they were listening to him. He was like, no. You could see him like holding up the numbers with his hands and all this kind of stuff. He was basically managing, and then he went down the tunnel at half time apparently as well. So he's back, and I'm sure Swindon will fly up the table as a result. Now, everybody. Hervé Renard is back.
Oh, yeah.
He is back. He has returned to Saudi Arabia as manager. It's a match made in heaven.
It happens fairly often, doesn't it, with Hervé Renard? Just people can't get over him. They go back.
The heart wants what it wants.
Come on, Renard is back on the international football scene, everybody. The men's international football scene, I should say, because, of course, he left Saudi Arabia to lead France at the Women's 2023 World Cup, which was very enjoyable to see him there. They went out in the quarterfinals, though, and then he was in charge of the team at the Olympics, but 2 quarterfinal exits. But he did say on the video that was on Twitter, I'm back. He did say, I did not intend to leave, but when your country knock on your door, you have to respond. But I did not finish my story with Saudi yet. Maybe.
He just loves a pound note. Let's just be fair.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
and a white shirt and a pound note, and he's happy as Larry.
He hasn't won the Africa Cup of Nations with them yet, so that's unfinished business. And before anybody tweets me, I know they didn't qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations. Tweet me, I dare you. Go on.
You embarrassed yourself.
Oh dear, but yeah, I love the fact that that Mancini basically kept the seat warm for him. Didn't really work out with Mancini, right? Here we go.
They will all be so relieved to see him after Mancini's reign.
When in life would you not be relieved to see Renard?
Well, I mean, more relieved.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Oh dear, lovely to have him back.
I have a situation, but I'm both.
Yeah, I thought about that and thought, no, yeah, that's fine.
That's for Ramble Nights.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.